So students, these are some of the important multiple choice questions from the poem Ode, Intimations of Immortality, written by William Wordsworth. So who is the poet? First question, William Wordsworth. What is the full title of the poem? So these are the options. Full title is Ode, Intimations of Immortality from Recollections of Early Childhood. Which major romantic theme is most evident in this poem? So these are the themes, and nature and childhood is the major romantic theme that is evident in this poem. According to Wordsworth, where do we come before birth? तो पहले कहाँ से आते हैं हम? From the heavens. What does Wordsworth lament the loss of in the poem? The divine vision of childhood. Which image is used to describe a child in the poem? The image of a mighty prophet. Though there is a line, the things which I have seen, I now can see no more. This line expresses what? This line expresses nostalgia and loss. What natural element does Wordsworth frequently refer to in the poem? So natural element is the sun. What philosophical concept embedded in the poem? Immortality of the soul. What does Wordsworth refer to childhood as? He referred to it as a sacred stage. According to Wordsworth, what clouds the soul's divine origin as we grow older? So these are earthly customs. Which of the following lines is from the poem? So these are the lines. So the line B, option B, our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting, is from the poem, and others are from other poems. What does the poem suggest about the connection between childhood and the divine? It suggests it weakens with age. What role does nature play in the poem? Nature plays as a spiritual guide. In which year was the poem first published in full? It was published in 1807. What literary form is Ode, Intimations of Immortality? It is an ode. Which earlier collection included the first 4 stanzas? The lyrical ballads. The mood of the poem transitions from grief to joy. What does the poem ultimately affirm despite the poet's sense of loss? It is that the soul is immortal. How does the poet describe adulthood in the poem? He described it as a fall from divine grace. Which genre does the poem belong to? It is a romantic lyric. Which emotion dominates the first stanzas of the poem? The melancholy. What does the child trailing clouds of glory suggest? It is the spiritual connection with the divine. How does the poem end? It ends with joy and consolation in nature and memory. Now I will tell you some important multiple choice questions from the stanzas of the poem. For example, in the opening stanza, what has the poet lost? He lost the glory and freshness of a dream. So this is a line. There was a time when meadow, grove and stream, the earth and every common sight to me did seem. So complete this line. So To me did seem apparelled in celestial light. So this is the full line of this poem. The phrase, the things which I have seen, I now can see no more. What does it express? It expresses loss of spiritual vision from childhood. So it's in stanza 2, Wordsworth notes that nature is still beautiful, but it no longer fills him with divine joy. Which flower is mentioned as still bringing joy to the poet in stanza 3? It is a primrose. The poet compares the growing child to what in stanza 7? He compares him with a prophet. What does Wordsworth mean by our birth is but a sleep and a forgetting? So he means that we forget our divine origin as we grow. What does the phrase trailing clouds of glory signify? It signifies the heaven's influence on newborns. According to stanza 5, where does the soul come from? God, who is our home. In which stanza does the poet reflect on how children are closer to heaven than adults? It is in stanza 5. Which of the following lines appear in the poem? Heaven lies about her in our infancy. In stanza 8, what distracts the child from his divine origin? The imitation of adult rules. What is the vision splendid mentioned in the poem? The child's divine perception of the world. What does the shadow of the prison house represent? The shadow represents the responsibilities and worldly influences. What does the child bring into the world according to the poem? The child brings an immortal soul. How does the poet view memories of childhood later in life? He views them as a source of comfort and spiritual strength. What natural scene causes the poet joy near the end of the poem? A young lamb leaping in the field. What does the poet say? Still can hear even if he cannot see? The heavenly harmonies. In stanza 11, what is the philosophic mind aware of? The eternal life of the soul. Which of these lines reflect the theme of consolation in the poem? So from this we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind. What literary device is heavily used in the line, the soul that rises with us, our life star? It is a metaphor. Which image represents the fleeting beauty of youth in the poem? The splendor in the grass. Why is the child called thou best philosopher? Because he has pure knowledge of heaven. The cataracts blow their trumpets from the steep. What is being personified here? The waterfalls are personified in this line. What is the overall message at the end of the poem? Despite losses, memory and nature can console us. So this is all about this poem. So we prepare for your exams and keep watching.